Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Andy Dietrich. He is a author of Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes, where he chronicles short stories of his personal mishaps, absurd interactions, and most endearing life moments, all with wit, heartfelt insight, and a little sarcasm. Welcome to the show,
Thank you
Andy.
for having me, AG. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Andy. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now.
Great.
We'll be talking about how one can turn mistakes into life lessons. Not everybody is able to do that. So we'll learn about all this. But before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, Andy, so that people know who they are listening to.
Sure. I'll give you the paragraph version of my last 40 plus years. I was born in Germany. I lived there till I was about 14. My mother and I then moved to Alaska, of all places. There's a fun little story that goes along with that. And then at 19, I joined the military, the U.S. military. I was stationed in Southern California for a couple of years. And then in 2004, I decided to move all my stuff, and I've been living in Las Vegas ever since. My on my professional track, I've done IT my entire life. And then over the last couple of years, I decided to jot down some of my stories. And the book that you mentioned, Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes, is the result of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first, I want to understand from you, Andy, is why this book? Why what did life teach you that you wanted to get into this book writing?
Sure. So the book is broken into two parts, right? The first part is my more endearing stories, right? Some silly things that happened to me, some moments where I definitely put my foot in my mouth and how I dealt with it after the fact. And then the second part is a little more sincere. Not that the stories I tell are not sincere, but the second part is a little more serene in the way that I share some opinions, some rants, some realizations, some condemnations as well. And there are some personal call outs as well. So think of the first half is entertainment. The second part is a little more heartfelt. Um, the the genesis of it was I realized that I was telling the same 20, 30 stories over and over and over. And I think they were pretty decent stories, but after a while, I realized, hey, these stories, in my opinion, are worth telling. They're interesting. There's almost always something to be taken away from them, and why not put them together into, if there's enough to write a book, why not write it off all the mishaps that have happened to me? And then as it developed, I realized that I was also want to share some personal opinions, which then makes up the second half of it, where I don't know, just some life realizations come to life. Some more sincere, maybe not sincere, some more real life events happen that I kind of unpack and then talk about. Right, sometimes when I'm vulnerable to the reader. So it was a love project that took me about 2.5 years to do. I'm happy with the result. I just want to share it with whoever wants to listen.
Absolutely. So let us understand about your life itself better for the audience. See, you come from originally from Germany.
Yes,
And if I understand, you went to the US military.
I did at one point. Yes, when I was 19.
Yes.
Yes.
Then you also went to Alaska.
Yes, I moved. My mother and I moved from Germany to Alaska when I was 14, and I spent about
Yes.
5 years there. Yes.
And then into the IT world. Also, you had the IT background.
Yes, I've
And
been
also
doing.
now you moved to Las Vegas, if I understand.
Yes, that's correct.
So many places, so many things you did. Which ones taught you the most? Which ones made you commit the mistakes you wanted to or you did not want to? And which ones which taught you the most? And life lessons for you yourself. Which one made you move forward? Which one made you move backwards?
Sure. There were a lot of trials and tribulations, I guess I could call them, when I was going through my development, right? The Andy I am today is not the Andy I was 20 years ago. There were things that didn't go well in my life. I never had a terrible life, never had a necessarily hard life, but certain aspects of my life did not pan out the way I want them to, and it was all due to my own choosing, right? It wasn't because I was dealt a bad hand. No, it's because I just did not know how to handle life in the ways that it needs to be handled. And then I took a big, long look at myself and I realized, hey, this is an area of my life that I want to improve. And I did. I learned social skills. I didn't have a lot of social skills, at least looking back, I didn't. And it was just one of those skills that I wasn't taught. And I took it upon myself to fix that area of my life. And I have to tell you, that was probably the biggest investment I've ever made, to where learning that set of skills had ripple effects into all other areas of my life. And it's not a thing that happens overnight. It's like going to the gym. It's like having a healthy eating habit, right? You don't see results overnight, but if you stick to it, then you will get the benefits of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Andy, so I want to understand, uh, what should we look, mistakes in life as? Should we look at as lessons from that point in time, or should we? And many people do not want to make mistakes. They always think, that this is I. If I had learned about these things 20 years, 25 years earlier on, I would have learned. Do you think? Do you think one can have a perfect life looking at back at life in the past, or is it we should accept it the way it has happened to us?
I definitely agree with the latter. I think that you need to make mistakes. You need to have hardship. I'm not saying that a hard life is necessarily a better life, but I believe that for the sake of self-development and being able to enjoy everything that life can give you, I think an easy life is not a life worth living. Of course, you should make it easy for yourself, but if you are playing a game, I'm using an analogy here, if you're playing a video game on a cheat code where you can't get hurt, you have all the money in the world, and you can never make any mistakes, that's a boring game. And I think life needs to be looked at the same way, that life does give you those opportunities to deal with hardship and then hopefully learn from them so you don't do them again.
Absolutely. So, if it's possible, can you share some of the instances, stories that you think would help listeners in their own lives, learning from your life itself?
Yeah, there is one particular story that is a very Las Vegas centered experience. So I had a birthday coming up, and we decided, when I say we, a bunch of friends, we decided to rent out a room at one of the hotels that are here in Las Vegas. And one of our friends happened to be the hotel room manager of the place that we're looking at to get a room. So we got a bunch of people together, we threw a bunch of money together, and we got a room rented. And our friend who was working the night, he says, don't worry, just pay for the most basic room that you can, and I'll upgrade it to make sure that you guys can have a good birthday and you guys can enjoy all the amenities that the hotel has to offer. And he sure did upgrade it. We got a 2-story suite, which was way more than we could have ever afforded at the time. And this simple, I say simple, this simple in air quotes, the simple birthday party turned into probably a few hundred people coming in and out of the doors that night. It turned into a much, much, much bigger deal than we expected. And it was a good time. We had a lot of fun, a lot of booze, a lot of people. It was just a phenomenally great time. However, one thing I forgot to mention was this friend of ours who made the room happen for us. He said, hey, if in case anything happens, don't call the front desk, do not call security, call me directly. I'll be working that night. And I told him, no problem. And nothing of noteworthiness happened that night. We were a little loud, a little rowdy. And the next day, I get a phone call from our friend, and this friend, Brad, is one of those guys who never, ever, ever raises his voice. He always has kept a calm, cool, collected demeanor. And as he called me up, I picked up the phone. I said, hey, Brad, how's it going? And he starts with, Andy, what happened last night? And I didn't know what he meant. Maybe he was referring to a noise complaint that we've gotten. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, we've gotten a noise complaint. I should have told you about it. It completely, escaped my mind. And then he started reading off the charges of all the damages that were done to the room. There was a portion of the floor that needed to be resurfaced. There were several tables and chairs that need to be replaced altogether. There was a carpet that needed to be pulled out, and there was a couch that required entire reupholstery because there was a tear that was somehow put into it. As he was reading off these damages, I had no idea any of that stuff happened. And when he finally gave me the dollar amount of how much it would cost to get all that stuff fixed, it was a lot of money. At least for me, it was a ton of money back then, and I had no idea, first, how it even happened, or second, how I would even pay for it. But then my friend Brad said, "Look, I don't care how you pay for it, but this is my job on the line. You have to fix this." And we did, right? I will spare you the details, but it took us about a year to pay that off, right? At the end of the day, it was a great event. It was a great night. Was it worth the price? Probably not. Would you do it again? Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was a lesson learned. It needed to be. It needs to be one of those tough lessons that, everything comes with a price, and some things cost more than others, and some things have a hidden cost like this, where you pay for it afterwards tenfold.
Absolutely, absolutely. So is it that we need to be careful with, with the trust that people put on us, and that we might be careful, but the people we invite in our lives, they may not be as careful, and that we need to also choose people that we are, because it's not our own thing, but somebody else who has put us his own job or trust in life. It happens, you can be very conscious of the fact, but others may not be the way you want or you would behave in a normal life. What lesson did you learn out of it, Andy?
I think I think ultimately issues like this shouldn't prevent you from having an open heart and enjoying life the way you should. I think the worst thing you could have happen is from an experience like that to close yourself off and shut down and put yourself in a hole where you cannot get hurt. Right. I think living that kind of a lifestyle where you're afraid of something happening, so you choose to exclude yourself from the world, is the worst way of living. Right. We go out there every day and we drive in our cars, hoping, of course, that we never get into an accident. But when we do, if it ever happens, we hope that we have insurance. We hope that we have airbags. We hope that we have people around us that care, about our welfare. So I think that these mistakes, I wouldn't say need to be made, but it makes a good life experience, and life has to have mistakes, in my opinion, for it to be worth living.
Absolutely. Now, let me understand the role of humor. How has humor played a role in your life?
Um, I I think that the I wouldn't necessarily say that humor is a coping mechanism. I do believe that humor, especially dark humor, sarcastic, dry wit, adds a little bit of flair to day-to-day life, right? And it's not everyone's cup of tea. I understand that, right? Just like spice to a dish, some people like it, some people do not. I know that my brand of humor can be very off-putting to people, especially early on. But I also do believe that once you get to know me and once you spend a little bit of time with me, that the things that I do and the things that I say that may be a little off-putting, that may be a little inappropriate, are never to hurt anyone. They're there to make sure that people are included, that they can feel comfortable, that with humor, you can make a dire situation comfortable. And I try to get that across to where, sure, I may say inappropriate things, but it's never to hurt anyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. But sometimes, we do speak about things. We do tell words to others, appropriate, inappropriate, wrong, right. At that point in time, we think what we are speaking is absolutely correct. The not the It is not a bad thing that it can happen with it. It can happen with a human. But how do you rectify it? How do you evaluate it? What does your life lesson tell us about this?
Yeah, I think that skill took a long, long time to hone in, to sharpen the blade, so to say. That's probably a bad analogy when it comes to humor, but it took a while to get that dialed in to the point where, let me back up a little bit. There's been many times when I would say something, and immediately afterwards, I told myself, "Oh, should not have said that. That's gonna come back around and bite me." I also think that there is a difference between how should I put it? You never want to have anyone feel like they're being attacked, right? I believe that if someone says that you've hurt them, you don't get the choice to say no, I didn't. And I think that in itself is a very, very important lesson, right? Someone says you hurt me, you cannot say no, I did not.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's come to the book itself. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. What do you mean by this particular? How did this title come to your mind?
It's it's been a phrase I've been using for a long time. Basically, it encapsulates the idea that when you do silly things, you're going to get silly results. So if you put yourself in weird, silly, off-putting, awkward situations, you're probably going to get some awkward experiences out of it. And the idea is that you get out of it what you put in. And I think that the the experiences I share in the book exemplify that, where yep, Andy is out there doing things maybe you shouldn't be doing, but there are some great stories that come from it. And I think at the end of the day, there the stories, as inflammatory and as questionable as my decision making can be, no one ever got hurt, right? No one ever went to jail. No one ever had to pay a price more than embarrassment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to understand. I don't know if you have written any book before, or this is the only book. Maybe you will write more, but this is this is a difficult thing to write about yourself, about your learnings, and also making it useful for others, so that it doesn't just become a memoir sort of a thing,
Yeah.
but becomes much more useful. How did you manage this part of writing? Who is this book for?
It's a good question. So when I initially sat down and I figured, who's my target audience? Who am I doing this for? It really came down to, I'm doing this for me. I want to chronicle my stories that I think are worth reading, at least for me, or at least to me they are. I want to write down some of my other thoughts that are not necessarily related to firsthand experiences of silly stories, more some in-depth realizations that I've had. Again, the target audience, it was a love project that I told myself, if I were to get this done, if it sells one copy, great. If it sells a million copies, that's great too. But first and foremost, it was for me. It was my project that I want to do. And I'll tell you, it wasn't easy, right? My biggest fear was not having enough material, right? I did not want to put something together that only came to about 50 pages. That is not enough to, in my opinion, publish something like a book. But when I started putting all my thoughts together, I started writing it out, ended up being about 160 pages, and I'm proud of what I did. I don't believe there will be a part two, at least not anytime soon. I kind of poured, I wouldn't say everything, but almost everything that I have that's noteworthy into this. And I'm just happy and proud that it came together. I feel like many people talk about their project, whether it be a screenplay or a painting or remodeling the bathroom or whatever it is, right? Everyone has that project in their mind that they will do someday, right? And someday never happens unless you actually start on someday. And I feel that the people that say, oh, that big project I'm working on, well, I'm still working on it, and they keep on reminding you of it every month. I didn't want to do that. I want to show the result without having to, I don't know, tease people about it, right? So I told very few people about it, and most of my friends found out when it was done. And the question I've received is, why didn't you tell anyone about this? Well, because I didn't want to be the guy that keeps on talking about their project every month, yet nothing ever comes of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is also a big learning in itself, that just don't talk, just go and do it. This is what you did. But that's once you have done it, now you are an author. Would you be looking at life also as an author, or you want to think about it?
It's interesting. It's a good question. I definitely have learned a lot through the process of writing it. I don't, when people say, how's it feel to be an author? Okay, sure. On paper, I've published a book. I am, an author just by the virtue of having done that. I don't see myself as a writer. I've worked IT for the last 25 years. I'm good at what I do in the computer field. I enjoyed writing this down on paper, and I enjoyed the process. But I still have a hard time identifying myself as a writer, as an author. This is just something I did on the side that I'm happy with and I'm proud of.
Absolutely. But if I see it from my side, I can understand there are so many stories from the your military life, life as an immigrant,
Yeah.
and also life in Alaska, and someone from Germany living a life in Las Vegas. There are so many stories in so many aspects of your life, Andy. And
Thank you.
whenever you look back, you'll find stories talking to you, at least. And so many stories need to be told to the world. That is what I look from my point in life, from where I am
Yeah.
at this point in time. But there is so much to learn from you, Andy, about life, about so many aspects of life, from learnings and also and from your book itself.
Thank you.
So I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about you, from your book, want to get hold of the book. What's the best way for them to do so?
Absolutely. So you can go straight to andysbook.com, just one word, right? andysbook.com. There's a link to the Amazon page. However, if you go to andysbook.com/gift and you trust me with your address, and I promise nothing nefarious will happen to your information, I'd be more than happy to send you a signed copy. So again, andysbook.com for the Amazon link. But if you want a copy on me with a signature inside of it, andysbook.com/gift.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.